Not everybody knows that on the $20 bill, it's Andrew Jackson, and on the $10 bill, it's Alexander Hamilton. Mostly everybody knows on the $5 bill, it's Abraham Lincoln. And pretty much everyone knows that on the $1 bill, it's George Washington. But other than that, what do you know about our first president? Let's take a trip back in time and talk to the man himself. Education Today starts now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Education Today. I'm Colin McKelvey with the Armstrong School District. And well, you know, George Washington is not just a distinguished old man you see on the dollar bill. To celebrate President's Day, we're going to have a chat with young George Washington. In fact, through the magic of television, we've managed to catch up with George Washington himself as a 22-year-old in the year of 1754. Would someone please throw the official Armstrong School District time switch?
It is time.
Wow, it's George Washington. First off, let me shake your hand. I've never met a historical figure before. It's a delight to have you on the program. Say, you look a little young to be George Washington. How old are you anyway?
From what my family Bible has told me, what my mother has informed me, I'm actually 22 years of age.
Would you please tell all of us briefly about yourself? Where are you from and what do you do for a living?
I live in a house that inherited by my older half-brother Lawrence on Hunting Creek, a house he named after Admiral Vernon, a place he called Mount Vernon. I inherited that where I paid his sister, or my sister-in-law, as you would say, 30,000 pounds of tobacco in order to lease this house on Hunting Creek. And I had always been a military man, and as of now I am a colonel in the Virginia Regiment, also for the King and Governor of Virginia.
Oh, interesting. Do you happen to know what year it is?
Of course, it's 1754.
Oh, well, have you seen the dollar bill? Why don't you take a look at this?
Dollar bill?
Yeah, it happens to have you on it.
What type of paper do you have here? What is this?
This is our money. You're a historical figure.
Money such as conscription papers or something?
Yes, this is what we pay things for. You're quite the famous person.
Such things of currency I do not know existed. Is this from foreign or something?
Well, this is the year 2006. A lot of things have changed.
2006?
2006.
It's still the year of our Lord, 1754. Such things do not exist. If not, I've not seen it. Perhaps it was been popular in trade in Europe and such.
Well, blow your world, I guess. I don't know. Now, getting back to it, I heard you were in the Armstrong County area recently. What was it for?
I was hired by the Governor Dinwiddie of Virginia to, in fact, inform the French that they were invading upon the lands of Virginia and to its dominion of Great Britain, and that we would happen to travel with my guide Christopher Gist and 4 such servitors and many other Indians, as you would say, that would travel with me to the 3 forts that they had built upon the rivers and lake, and traveled to Fort LeBoeuf to deliver a message to the French commandant that, in fact, these lands belonged to Virginia and to Great Britain and not to France, of which they refused to obey by, and of which we are now currently and have in the process of building the outpost at Great Meadows as of this time. My men are working harshly, the men of Virginia, waiting on difference of men and men of coming from also from South Carolina to arrive with us. Reinforcements such as, for we heard that the French have been coming in the area. In fact, we are almost in the midst of possibly a conflict with these people from France.
Oh, very interesting. Well, I'd just like to clear up a little rumor here. Are your teeth really made of wood?
Wood. That is something I've not yet heard of such teeth being made of such. I do have had problems with, in fact, my, as you would say, my mouth. I've had problems losing my teeth as such, but as nothing is made of wood, no.
All right. Well, I guess another rumor would be, is it true that you once chopped down a cherry tree and refused to tell a lie about it?
I have cut down many trees, in fact not just cherry, in fact many on my father's land before he died, and many on my half-brother's land as well. As far as telling a lie about it or telling the truth about it, in fact they were always with me when I cut it down, so telling that I did not tell a lie, that was probably true, but as far as cutting down a cherry tree and refusing to tell a lie, that is of course false. I would in fact say that in my opinion that cutting such trees was what I've done as a surveyor when I was around 16.
Well, that's wonderful. Right now we're going to take a short break. My guest is obviously none other than George Washington at age 22. When we come back, we're going to learn more about our wonderful guest, and we'll be right back with Armstrong School District's Education Today.
Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Inspire greatness. Influence the future. Earn your credentials at the Commonwealth's leader in teacher education. Teacher education at IUP. Quality, affordability, excellence. Indiana University of Pennsylvania, the perfect fit.
Welcome back, everyone, to Armstrong School District's Education Today. I'm Colin McKelvey with the Armstrong School District, and today we're talking to 22-year-old George Washington. Yes, believe it. I have a confession to tell you all. Our guest today is actually a historian reenactor named Jason Cherry, who visits schools and in fact plans on speaking in Armstrong schools. Jason, thank you for your hard work and making the history come alive.
Sure.
So, would you like to tell me the story of how you became George Washington impersonator? How did it start? Take us up to the present.
Well, actually, I ended up, I belong to a French Indian War reenactment group that does the Virginia Regiment, and I've been reenacting since I was 10, which should be since 1990, so it'll be about my 16th year of reenacting. And I had been approached by somebody to do a George Washington traveling to Butler County in 2003. It was August of 2003, actually. And they had informed me, they said, you know, you're the right age, height, and everything. Would you mind doing this for us, of doing this? And your father could be Christopher Gist, of saying, you know, when they came through here in the area. And I said, sure, that'd be fine. I said, honestly, I've never really done this before. I said, I've read a lot of things about this, but, you know, never actually done a thing that they wanted me to do. So basically, I had approached a couple people about, you know, getting a uniform. A guy in my unit actually had the actual Washington uniform. That was our actual commander in our Virginia regiment. And he had given it to me, and then I had it took off from there. I did this thing in Harmony towards Zillionople area for the Donk Fest in August, and had done it for John Roosh, who had requested me to do so. And we did it from there, and then after speaking to the public and walking around to explaining about Washington being in the area, I had been getting several calls. You know, I had gotten a call from a lady to do the 250th anniversary of Washington landing at Fort LeBoeuf, actually in Waterford, Pennsylvania, where LeBoeuf was built by the French. And it was Washington delivering the letter to the general that I had mentioned earlier. And we actually did it on the same day, December 11th, 2003. It would be 250 years to the day, and the exact time we handed the letter, and I did it from there. And a lot of people saw that, and it sort of snowballed from there. We ended up, I got several calls. You know, can you do a historical study? Can you do this? A lot with the anniversaries from 2003, honestly, to 2010. There are a lot of the French Indian War 250th commemorations that they would like to have Washington do this for, and that's what it sort of snowballed from there. And I had gotten several appearances, you know, every month, every week, depends on when people call me.
Now, back in the day when you were in school, what intrigued you about George Washington?
Just a matter of, I think, especially doing my reenacting group, it was hard to. You know, a lot of people, you know, justify, okay, when he was older, he was the president or was in the American Revolution, things like that. A lot of people didn't know about the younger George Washington, what he endured during that time period, 1750s, 1760s, even the 1740s and such, of what went on then and what he experienced. And it was a thing that, not only that I learned by reading, but, I can educate other people as well, not just looking at the dollar bill and saying, hey, that's what he always looked like. A lot of people always justify Washington having white hair his whole life, when in fact he actually had a sort of a reddish-brown hair.
All right. Well, that's great. I mean, I didn't know a lot of that stuff, so I thank you. How did you perfect your routine?
Well, I did a lot of the stuff I take out of, especially doing like I do first person George Washington instead of just educating the public for it. Numerous appearances when I do act as if I'm George Washington. I read through mainly his papers or his journal, different things that are primary sources, things that he would have said, things that he either wrote down and such. That, and a lot of stuff I will add in myself, but more of that he would have said back then. I read a lot of the colonial writings, stuff that happened in the period. I mean, Washington wrote over 100,000 letters in his career, whereas with that time period alone, he was probably the most well-kept journal of the era of what actually went on during this time period. So I think that was the most accurate portrayal, especially since he was the one that kept journal, and that's the guy I'm going to be portraying.
Well, how often do you perform?
It varies. It depends on different things. A lot of historical societies, schools, different historical places have called me, especially maybe historical areas where Washington had been. Will call me, and I even do it. I'll meet people through the reenactments that I do with my other unit. That they will call and say, hey, we need a George Washington do this, or we need you to speak here, or even numerous councils will have me speak at their council chambers, different things for sort of like maybe fundraisers and such, and it depends, but usually I could do once a month is on average, and sometimes somebody will call and say, hey, can you do it next week? We'll be able to, I hope it's not last minute, and that's not a problem. I should be able to do that, because really offhand, as far as the material and everything, I'm pretty good as far as the era, any type of era, I'm pretty good of just spouting it off sort of memory-wise. So.
Right. Well, do you belong to any other reenacting groups?
Well, besides, when I do, other than George Washington, I do belong to a Virginia Regiment group that was the first group that started after Washington went to Fort Le Boeuf in 1753 and then returned saying what the French message was, that they refused to leave. Governor Dinwiddie hired a unit called commissioned actually a captain named William Trent, who was a trader on the frontier, and he enlisted about 80 guys that went to the Forks of the Ohio, which is now where Point State Park and Three Rivers, where Heinz Field is now. And that unit there that was trying to build the first English fort, which never got completed, that's the unit that we portray. We portray the sort of the first Virginia regiment that was commissioned. And we do that unit that reenacts several. We do, about 15 events a year. And then in addition, I also do the American Revolution. I do a Pennsylvania German regiment that was, in fact, at Trenton and stuff that would have been with Washington's troops that were from the eastern part of the area, about Lancaster County and such.
Oh, that's great. I'll just talk about you being George Washington. What do you do when you're not George Washington?
Well, it's sort of bizarre. I mean, a lot of people ask and say, well, you do this, were you a history major in college? Well, no, actually, I was a wildlife management major, and, and then under a bachelor's degree, and also I have a master's in parks and resource management. When I'm not doing that, I also, sort of the direct opposite, I end up, I actually was a coach the last 4 years. I coached kickers and punters at Butler High School. In addition to that, I was a place kicker through college, high school, and such. I currently still play in the Arena Football League. I played last 2 years professionally with the Johnstown Riverhawks, and looking this year either possibly going there, or even Pittsburgh has a team now and possibly going out to a team in Youngstown, or even the AFL team in New Orleans or Arizona. Depends on what happens, but I sort of, when I'm not doing that, I do football, and then hopefully reenact, do a lot of volunteer stuff with the reenacting, and do a lot of appearances, of course, with George Washington.
Well, who knew George was a football player? Well, let's tell us about, I really noticed this uniform you're wearing. Tell us a little something about your outfit in general.
Well, I guess the red simulates sort of the colors of Virginia and also the colors of Great Britain. I mean, if you notice the old-fashioned Union Jack of Great Britain, you notice the sort of the red, white, and blue. But the majority of the red was the color that was issued to mainly because it was the cheapest to make. But it also signified not only Great Britain overseas, but to the colony of Virginia. Many other colonies back in that time period had different colors depending on their colony. I know Massachusetts would have a sort of a darker blue. Different states would have this, and which is why Washington would have probably worn a reddish. Now towards later in the thing, he designed a uniform that was actually blue, and you'll see it there's a later photo portrait of him that he wearing this such uniform. Now this was an early uniform mainly because red was probably the only uniform given to him at the time and to the others in this, which is signify that. Now considering he was an officer at the time in 1754, he was a colonel. He started out in 1753 being a major. So he would signify not only wearing, but he would have worn what they called a gorget. Now this started from the medieval times, where it was almost around the neck, and then it was gradually moved down to towards around the heart region. But it was more of a signifying that this was a man, dignified. This was a man in charge. And it's same thing when it goes with the sword. I mean, if you look at as far as with the sword, this is such a signification of this is a man of importance. A lot of men joining were, not military men, but men off the frontier, farmers, carpenters, that wouldn't have known that much about discipline, might have not had much of authority, and by using, not necessarily using the sword, but, using such uniform as ways of dignifying their importance and that they were in charge. Now, unfortunately, later on as he would find out that wearing this type of thing also proposed a target for enemies, signifying, oh wait, there's an officer and he's on a horse, let's shoot him off the horse,
Right. How about your hat? Was that the typical hat?
Yeah, the tri-cornered hat or three-cornered hat as they would call it back then. Back then, morely it was more as the three-cornered hat. They didn't tri-corn probably till later our time period, but yeah, the was a standard as far as some not only some weren't even issued hats back then. It was mainly because of an officer. I also have sort of what they call almost the cockade, a sort of like a bow. It seems like it's a black bow that sort of matches the hat in there. That would have also signified, in addition to the gorget and the sword, saying, hey, this is an officer. A lot of them weren't until the Revolution. Honestly, till later in the time period, cockades only were worn by officers. Later on in the American Revolution, they did wear cockades in their hats of different colors, even the regular enlisted soldiers, the privates and sergeants and such.
Oh. I've been told that you really get into character at your reenactments. Would you like to give us a demonstration of that?
Sure, sure. By now you've all have heard news that have happened at the 3 outposts. I've delivered a message to the governor that the French have refused to leave. It is a sign now as my men desperately dig in the trenches in the swamp of the Great Meadows, building an outpost of such that we need reinforcements to in fact reinforce these men of Virginia. There are forces leaving the forks of the Ohio at an outpost built by the French called Duquesne, an outpost that are leaving for us. I've heard reports from our scouts that the French could be upon us by the morrow. We need more men. The men of South Carolina have arrived, but in fact, although this endorses our numbers, it in fact does not increase such morale amongst the men, for they think they are regulars and do not have to abide by working such as building a road and getting supplies. We need more men. Our governor and the king overseas of Great Britain wishes to usher this battle cry to get you men upon the frontier and leave your homes and fight for your wives and children, to join our outpost at the Great Meadows. For French forces upon us, we need you all. We need some to help us build this outpost, to reinforce our numbers. It was such that the French will come. The savages will surround us. But it was for this colony of Virginia and for the colony of Great Britain and the country overseas that you join us. Join our men. Join under your colonel. Join for your country and for your wives and your homelands to defend if we are to win such a conflict.
Well, now you all know what it's like to be in the Revolution back in the day. I guess my last question for you would be, is there anything else you'd like to add for the viewers' benefit?
Well, I think a lot of people, hopefully, you know, even if it's 5-10 minutes or such, my best goal when I try to do Young George Washington or even portray historical reenactments with Virginia Regiment, I want to try to educate people as much as possible what actually happened in young George Washington's young life when he was in his 20s, even in his teens, to inform them, sort of educate them a little bit that something that, you know, you may not find in a history book that we learn in school or even, you know, look on the internet. It's stuff that we would end up trying to look up and not be able to find. And I think like I can, you know, by then saying, wow, I didn't know this about Washington, or not go by the simple myths of, you know, chopping down the cherry tree or the wooden teeth myth or something like that, that, you know, I thought I've completed my goal and achieved what I've set out to do, and it in fact is just educating anybody on what happened when he was younger in his life.
Well, thank you. That's our show for today. I'd like to thank my guest, Mr. Jason Cherry, a.k.a. George Washington. I'd also like to thank the television production crew of Katanning Senior High School, led by Mr. Ed Bauer. They were our film crew today. Please join us again next week for another look at the Armstrong School District. Visit our site for updated information about the district. Everyone have a great week and take care.
Hello, I'm Jessica Slankwitz from Elderton High School, and this is a look at what's going on around the Armstrong School District. Armstrong School District has scheduled 4 community meetings to present findings from a comprehensive architectural and engineering facilities study of 8 schools and their physical needs for the future. The public meetings begin Wednesday, February 7th. The district encourages people to attend and offer their opinions. There is 1 meeting in each of 4 attendance areas of the school district. Residents can go to any of these meetings from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. according to the following schedule. Katanning Senior High School Auditorium, Wednesday, February 7th. Ford City Junior Senior High School Auditorium, Monday, February 12th. West Shamokin Junior Senior High School Auditorium, Tuesday, February 20th. Elderton Junior Senior High School Gym, Wednesday, February 28th. Since July, architects hired by Armstrong School District have analyzed projected student enrollment, reviewed each school's student capacity as it relates to educational programming, and identified what improvements each building will need to be educationally and physically sound for the future. The architects studied these schools: Elderton Elementary and Elderton Junior Senior High School, Katanning Township Elementary School, Ford City Junior Senior High School, Katanning Senior High School, Katanning Junior High School, West Shamokin Junior Senior High School, and Chinook Valley Elementary School. The decisions that the board will make in the future regarding school facilities will be the highest priority in the upcoming months, according to Superintendent William Kerr. Cost estimates for building projects could be presented publicly in April 2007, with another set of community meetings scheduled for that month. A final architect's report to the school board is scheduled for June 2006. Well, that's all for now. I'm Jessica Slankwitz from Elderton High School. Keep watching. Also, like today. Thank you.
Now, do you mean that by just...
It should be somewhere...
You think that there should be at least 1 unit of media literacy as part of your curriculum? Okay. That...
Your camera on.
Hello everyone, and welcome. To celebrate President's Day, we're going to have a chat with young George Washington. In fact, through the magic of television, we've managed to catch up with George Washington himself.
Turn back here, come on, look over
Now,
I can see your reflection in the background.
okay, Justin, give me one. House on Hunting Creek, and I had always been a military man.
Why don't you take a look at this?
Papers or something.
Yes,
It's still the year of our Lord, 1754. Such things do not exist in France. Interesting. Wonderful. You can't see it?
Oh, okay, that's my bad.
And start them.
Welcome back everyone to Armstrong School. Today is actually a historian reenactor named Jason Cherry. He visits schools and in fact
Ready, one, take one.
Actually in Waterford, Pennsylvania, where LaBeouf was built by the French, and Washington delivering a letter to the general. A lot of people saw that and sort of snowballed from there. We ended up, I got several sort of snowballed from there, and I conduct several appearances, every month, every week, depends on when people call me.
Ready, one, take
No, back in the day when you were in school, did you, what are names?
Nice shot. Ready, two, take two.
American Revolution, things like that. A lot of people didn't know about the younger George Washington. What he, that time period alone, he was probably the most well-kept journal on the earth. Will have me speak at their council chambers, different things for once a month is on average, and sometimes also the colors of grape is the cheapest to make. But it also signified not only a great.
Now you don't know what it's like to be in the Revolution back in the day. I guess my last question for you would be, is there anything else?
My best goal when I try to do young George Washington or even portray historical reenactments of Virginia Regiment, I want to try to educate people as much as possible and sort of educate them a little bit that something that you may not find in a history book that we learn in school or even say, wow, I didn't know this was Washington, or not go by the simple myths of chopping down the cherry tree or the wooden teeth myth happened when he was younger in his life.
Well, I know myself, I'm more informed today by talking to him, so Jason Cherry, aka George Washington. I'd also like to thank the television production crew of Katanning Senior High School, led by Mr. Ed Bauer. They were our film crew today. Please join us again next week for
Good job, everybody.
Nice work.
Lots much known about the Virginia Regiment. This color of red, but it would such glorify the blood that would shed.